Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me. I am still Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. It is still in the description below. It is still your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Please reach out to me directly. I am Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, I share one of my absolute favorite series to present from the professional collection. This is the Breitling Aerospace Evo, and the example you see right here is a special variant of the Aerospace Evo. This is the F-16. So if you are a Viper pilot, if you've wasted years of your life learning flight simulators, or if you are just an aviation enthusiast, this is an F-16 themed Breitling Aerospace Evo. The Evo came out in 2013. This specific example is from 2019. 43 millimeters in diameter in grade 2 titanium. It's 10.8 millimeters thick. From lug tip to lug tip, it is 52 millimeters, and if you add the bracelet, you gain a little bit more span. It goes to 52.9 with the 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Now we get a surprising number of watches that are delivered to us still in original packing material because the owner paid a few $1,000s, lost his nerve, and then decided to try to recoup as much of that as possible before putting a mark on it or even removing the stickers. Well, that is all to your advantage because you know with these factory packing stickers and shipping stickers, the thing has never been refinished, it's never been submerged, abused, it has never been misused. This is a watch that you can own effectively with the same experience you'd have gotten had you worn it out of the showroom. So if you want an extraordinary new watch-like experience in the pre-owned space, this is the way to get it. We'll throw it on my wrist, out of the hand and onto the wrist. I'm going to pop the clamshell lock of the clasp. I do love the Aerospace because it's so light. Being all titanium and sapphire and incredibly thin at under 11 millimeters, this is a watch that you could and should wear all the time. I can recommend even the Evo at 43 millimeters for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters because it wears so light, and if you put it on a strap, it wears lighter and smaller still. The timepiece is super flat from over the top, which always exaggerates the width of the watch. You can see it's not quite out over the edge of my wrist. Down the barrel is always the definitive angle, and this watch actually helps its cause with those sharply downturned lugs. The bracelet, professional 3 style, which means you've got the sort of slash cut, but you've also got asymmetrical link sizing with large links in the middle. Conforming end link to mate it cleanly to the case. You can see that removable links are fixed by screws and that you have them on both sides of the clasp. And then the clasp has been internally drilled with 4 sets of divots, so you can use your strap tool to dismount the spring bar and change the anchoring point. We have a fairly thick gauge titanium single fold right there, and then we have a clamshell lock to allow you to close it up and lock it in place. Really well made, but very comfortable too. As you can see on the underside, there are plenty of gaps between the links to avoid pinching skin or pulling hair or trapping wrist heat. Now rolling around to the case, very simple. Blended integrated lugs that taper somewhat, and everything here is pretty subdued. There's not a whole lot of reflective surfacing. You have a double AR coated crystal because this is a pilot's watch. What you might not expect is that you've got a couple of dive watch functions that you typically don't get in any kind of pilot's timepiece. The first one is a unidirectional rotating 120 click bezel. Now it has the rider tabs inherited from the modern chronomat that makes it easier to grip even if your hands are gloved or sweaty. And we've got an enormous bezel pearl that's actually sapphire capped for protection. The watch is also 100 meters water resistant, which is solidly more than you see on almost any pilot watch. Now, as you can see, there is conventional passive luminova on the watch. So even without using the backlight, which I'm demonstrating right there, maybe we will actually see if we can activate the backlight with the display on. So you've got both passive and active lume, and the backlight is NVG safe, which means night vision goggles can be used with that backlight. It was designed with aviation, even military aviation, in mind. Now you can see this is an Evo because it has these large applied polished Arabic numerals. You've got the 12, the 3, and the 6, and then you've got the picture of the Viper over at 9 o'clock. Looks like it's laden with, at a bare minimum, some drop tanks, maybe sidewinders, and who knows, maybe those are also AMRAMs on there. Now, what else do we have going on? Well, we've got analog and digital. So you can choose to have, we may as well just do this from the beginning. Okay, so you can go with just the analog display. You can go with an alarm, which is something you set to a time of day. So if you want an alarm notice at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, you use the alarm for that. Then there is a chronograph, which is pretty self-explanatory. There is a second time zone. There is a timer. The timer is a countdown timer. So when you want the time of day to be noted by the alarm, you use the alarm. When you want, for example, a 7-minute countdown before you have to rejoin your meeting or catch your flight, you use the timer for that. It is a countdown alarm. As you can see, we have calendar components here, and the elements of the calendar are perpetual, so you will not need to reset them. And then, of course, you can see how the digital time can be set to a 24-hour format. Now, it also has a digital minute repeater. That's right, it has an audible minute repeater that sounds the time when you press the crown. It also has an end-of-life indicator, so as you approach the 3 to 4 year lifetime limit of the battery inside the watch, it will give you subtle signs that it is running down on batteries. Now there's more going on here because it also has a COSC chronometer certification. This is the Breitling caliber 79, which is based on the ETA Thermaline caliber, a 988352. So thermocompensation means it's not going to drift in its timing as it gets very hot or very cold. And the COSC standards for a quartz chronometer are incredibly exacting, which is why you see a lot of mechanical chronometers, but very, very few quartz chronometers. This watch is able to keep time to within 10 to 15 seconds per year. That's what you get with super quartz. And there's just so much to love, and you can even do things like change the language of the calendar if you wish to do so. The functionality is almost bottomless, but it's very easy to operate. As you can see, I'm able to cycle between the different functions just by turning the crown. Now, if I want to, for instance, go back, all I do is turn backwards. If I want to start the chronograph, that's easy enough to do. I just push the crown. Other functions are accessed by pulling the crown out and turning it to set the time, for example, on the second time zone or the alarm. And then on the reverse side, because this is, after all, an aviation watch, we have various conversion factors: pounds and kilograms, gallons and liters, UK gallons to US gallons and liters, and there you can see right there, it is water resistant down to 100 meters. This is what a real pilot would wear, not just an F-16 pilot, but any pilot would wear if he were looking for a true pilot's watch in the modern age, not just a fashion statement like a Rolex GMT. Finally, I want to draw your attention to the way the bezel is assembled. You see these screws? They're not just there to look butch. This is what's known as a captive bezel. So the bezel is held to the case using these screws, and to remove the bezel, you need to remove the screws, which means unlike a Tag or Rolex or Omega bezel that can be snapped on and then by impact also snapped off, this one has to be disassembled before it can be removed, which is to say it is a very, very tough watch in almost every way. If you love this watch, reach out to me. I am Team Mosso, and if you're wondering how I knew this was a 2019 watch, well, a Breitling bracelet and case will always have a 4-digit code, and typically the bracelet and the cases are very similar. So here you can see that the bracelet was made in the 26th week of 2019, which gives you a good idea of when the watch was made. Again, reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.